Uh, Welcome everyone to 52 Living Ideas. My name is Evanique and I will be moderating while Sharik Khan. Oh, I thought Sharik Khan was coming back. Um, I will be moderating while Sharik Khan is on a business call. So welcome again to 52 Living Ideas. Tonight we will be continuing our study of the Gita. Tonight we will be covering chapter 18 verses starting with verse 19 to 22. And if we have time, 23 to 25. So Dave is going to read for us tonight. So Dave, whenever you're ready.
Yes, thanks, Ebony. Welcome, everyone. As you said, chapter 18, verse 19 to 22 to begin. I'm reading from the Bhagavad Gita Trust translation. Knowledge, action, and the doer are described in the Vedic scriptures as three kinds only according to the different modes of material nature. Now hear about these as well in due order. Understanding that knowledge by which one undivided, imperishable reality is seen within all diverse living entities is in the nature of goodness. But that knowledge by which one experiences separated diversity within all living entities, variety in quality, and plurality in essence, understand that knowledge as in the nature of passion. That by which one is engrossed in some fragmented conception, as if it encompasses all irrational, without knowledge of reality and whimsicality, is called the nature of nescience.
Thank you, David. Yogeshwar, whenever you're ready.
ज्ञानं कर्म च कर्ता च त्रिधैव गुणभेदतः प्रोच्यते गुणसंख्यानि यथावत् शृणुतान्यपि. Out of these two loops that are continuous, the loops between our interactions with the world and with our body, there are 6 in total. There is the knower, the known, and the knowledge. Then there is the doer, the action, and then what you use to do the action. Those are the 6. Out of those 6, Krishna is saying these 3 are the most important. And I will give you a distinction of the 3 kinds, the sattva, the rajas, and the tamas, of these 3 entities. They have been rightfully said in the Sankhya Shastra. Sarvabhuteshu yenekam bhavamavyayamikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tajjnanam viddhi sattvikam. There is this type of knowledge whereby there is a prominent light within your intellect. Wherever you throw the light, your intellect lights it up. Having done that, you understand what you're looking at in a full 360 mode. And there's nothing that skips your attention. You are attentive enough and your intellect is alert enough for you to see things as they are. पृथक्त्वेन तु यज्ञानं नानाभावान् पृथक्विधान् वेत्ति सर्वेषु भूतेषु तज्ज्ञानं विद्धि राजसम्. यत्तु कृत्स्नवदेकस्मिन् कार्ये सक्तमहैतुकम् अतत्त्वार्थवदल्पं च तत्तामसमुदारितम्. If we take all these 3 together and we start from the tamasa, tamasa is like darkness. You may feel that you're seeing everything as one, but it's not because you understand what it is. It is because there is this deep darkness, and you can't see the difference between anything. In such a condition, you're in tamasa. You may feel that, oh, there is a connection between tamasa and sattvika in a way that you're seeing everything as one. Yattu kritsnavade kasmin. And that is for tamasa. And in sattvika, saying avibhaktam vibhakteshu. So you see them as one in both states. What is the difference? So the difference here is that in tamasa, there is that much darkness that you don't even perceive the difference between things that are different. However, in sattvika, there is light, and then there is that much light that everything is lit up. It's not only that you light up things, but even the things themselves are lit up. So they are all having that same life energy within them that they're throwing back at you. That's why you're seeing the sameness within them. Rather, when you're in tamasa, it is due to the darkness that you see the same. You see everything as one. And that darkness doesn't take you anywhere. It doesn't take you on to the next step. If you want to go to the next step, you have to have some light within yourself. There, Krishna is saying that there is a person who is of Rajasa. He has a dim light within his hand. And when he puts it at something, there is a reflection that comes back. So he's seeing all these different objects within the world, which are different because they reflect different portions of light, according to the light that he has. However, Krishna is saying that light is not enough. And this comparison is in the Sankhya, whereby they say that Ajam ekam lohita shukla krishnam bahuvi prajas rejamanam namamaha. So the way they have put Maya there, the way they have put Prakriti there, is that it is of three kinds. Lohita, Shukla, Krishnam. The Sattvika type of Prakriti is white. That's the color that they have put to that. And the Tamasa kind of Prakriti is black. Krishna is black. And the Rajasa type of Prakriti is red in color. Those are the colors that they have put to that. And we can see that here, whereby Krishna is saying that person who is in tamasa is in deep darkness. He cannot perceive the difference between things as they're supposed to be. Yattu kritsnavadekasmin karya saktama hetukam. And another thing the tamasa person is doing is that karya saktam. He is so much into that ahetukam. I do not want to do anything because I don't have a reason to do it. He never has a reason to get up in the morning. He never has a reason to get out of his laziness. He never has a reason to get out of his sleep. Such a tamasa person is said as atattvartha vadalpam cha tat tamasa mudari. Atattvartha vad. He doesn't know any part of the truth. And he doesn't even strive to know the truth. Because in a way, you can see that there's a contentment that he has, but that contentment is like due to his laziness. It is like a person who is running away from doing anything. And he says that I am content, not because there is that feeling of contentment, but because he just doesn't want to do anything. He's lazy. He just wants to sleep. He wants to run away from his rightful action. Such a person is tamasa in kind. Then the rajasa type of person, he has this small light with him and it projects onto the things he sees in the world. Because he has such a small light, he can only project at one thing at one time, like a torch. So he sees everything as different. Prithaktvena tu yajnanam nana bhavan prithak vidha. He sees these categorical differences within everything. And at least Krishna is saying that that is a step above the tamasa. At least he's seeing what is different. He's seeing what is in the world, even though it's with his small light. Nana bhavan prithak vidha. He sees these differences and the differences of so many kinds. Vetti sarveshu bhuteshu tas jnanam viddhi rajasam. When he sees that in all things, living, non-living, and in the whole world, he always just wants to make the difference between things. For such a person, he is of a rajasa type of person. Then above that, Krishna is saying that there is a sattvic kind of person who realizes that not only does he have a light within himself, which is bright, but everything he is seeing also has the light within. He is seeing the Brahman within all. He's seeing the Brahman within himself and is seeing the Brahman within what he perceives in front of him. So the light is even more than twofold. Whatever he sees has the light, and even he himself has the light within. For that reason, Krishna is saying that there is no difference between what he is seeing and even himself. Sarva bhuteshu yenekam bhavam avyayamikshate. Within all, whether it's living beings or non-living beings, he sees this bhavam, he sees this existence that is avyayam, that never diminishes, that is always there. And when he sees that, he also sees avibhaktam vibhakteshu. He also sees the fact that even though I am seeing this, even though I can perceive that there's so many kinds of things in front of me, he sees that which is beyond just the skin. He sees that which is under the skin. And not just under the skin, but deep under the skin. When he sees that which cannot be divided. And that which cannot be divided is there within each and every person, within each and every living being, within each and every non-living being as well. At large, it is in the whole universe. It is that unmanifest that is within all manifest kinds of things. Whatever manifest you see, if you're only seeing the manifest and you can differentiate it with others, at least we know that we are not in the tamasa kind of prakriti. However, we still cannot see that indifferent within the different. We cannot see that unmanifest within the manifest. We cannot experience the unmanifest, neither within something else nor within ourselves as well. Until then, we are in that category of Rajasa, and there is a stride that we have to go ahead for, the Sattvika type of Prakriti. And in the Sattvika type of Prakriti, there is this deep knowing that there are differences between things, but there's also this knowing that within all those different things, there is that which is unchanged. There is that which cannot be cut and cannot be categorized. There is that which, however sharp an intellect we may have, we cannot divide it using that sharp intellect. Having known these three types of jnana, now jnana is that which you'll use to perceive something in front of you. It is the middle between the knower and the known. That is why jnana is important. If you can mediate what is between the knower and the known, then you can change the perception of the known. You can change how you receive something from your senses. Because the senses are a bodily level. How your mind perceives that is totally different. For example, if you like something, for example, in eating, if you like something, you may eat the first time and the next time. After so many times, you realize that if you eat so much in a short time, like for example, in one meal, if you only have that one kind of food, there will be this perception that it felt so good at the first bite, but the subsequent bites, like the 5th bite or the 10th bite, then there is this, do I feel the same taste as I felt in the first bite? So there's a change of perception there. The object is the same. The indriya or the sense which is taking in the object is the same. However, there's something that has changed in between that says that I do not get the same feel as the same bite. Why is that so? Why do we feel that something is so tasteful in the first bite and in the subsequent bites, it loses its taste? Why so? That is something that we have to take upon. And whenever we're taking in something, perceiving something, and this is just an example of food, but of taste. But even with your eyes, even with your hands, even with your ears, anything that we can perceive it, and then ask the question, why? Why do I perceive it as different? Yet the object is the same. What I am perceiving it through is the same. The sense is the same. Yet my taste for the object has changed. Why is it? And continuous contemplation on that is what takes you ahead in the journey. It takes you ahead in the way that you may even be able to take onto the next part of Sattvika. Because when you're taking as different things, that is when you can get the taste of one. But when you feel the taste of all, you can see that Brahman is within all when you're perceiving it. When you perceive it in that way, you realize that all that is short-lived. All that is just for the sense, and it doesn't take as a whole. There is no indifferent within the sense objects. However, now, when you get to the Sattvika, you realize that even within that, the Brahman is. So there is something indifferent, indistinguishable. There is something even deeper than just the sense object that we have to get to.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Now it is time for questions and comments. If you have a question and or a comment, you can type exclamation point in chat or raise your hand in Zoom. While everybody's queuing up, just wanted to say for myself, thank you for all of this, all of the series, Yogeshwar, because I have been listening to the Gita again, and like what you teach kind of resonates when I listen to it again and I get a deeper understanding of it. It's not that it's not super deep, but each time I listen to the Gita, I get a different understanding because of what you say. So thank you. So now we have some people in the queue. So first up, I have David, followed by Joe and Brian. David?
Hi, Ernie, thanks. Hi, Yogeshwar. I had a question about seeing the light in the other person and potentially how to handle that a person, or if this person with this sattvic approach, sattvic level, sees the light in the other person that the person himself or herself doesn't even see. Because we're also discussing about people who have limitations, who do things that are, karmically bad, that will have issues that, maybe they're occluding their own light, but a person can see this light in them and is trying to treat them with this best opportunity for the light, and that they may not, again, recognize, and they may actually work against that. I mean, is there any comment in the Bhagavad Gita about how to approach that or find that balance, or to not, I guess also partially like not be delusional, or I mean, in the sense that if one should see the light in the other person, but one also shouldn't be blind to the darkness in another person as well.
So how to take on such is that when you see the light within yourself, then you see the potential within the other. You see the seed within the other. Now, when you see the potential within the other, you're really attentive that it is a seed and it is not a full-fledged tree yet, but the potential is there. When you're aware of that, then you'll allow an environment for the seed to become a tree. And you'll also try to take away those perspectives from him that don't allow him to grow into a full-fledged tree. However, you realize that he's not yet a tree, like maybe you yourself may be, because you're seeing that potential within him. And whenever you see a potential within somebody else, it means that you also have that potential, the same potential. You have realized some potential within yourself. That's when you can see it within another person. Having seen that within another person, like I said, that it is not due to the darkness that a sattvic person sees everything as one. However, it's due to the light that a sattvic person sees everything as one. So he sees the light illuminating from the other person. However, he sees that that light is not yet as bright as his own. He sees the difference even in that. But then that factor that is indifferent with himself, he sees that, which is the light. Now, you can give an environment, like for example, a teacher can give the environment for even the worst of students to grow into a mature person, because the teacher has learned over the periods, and he himself may have been such a kind of person, and he may have had a teacher who gave and saw the potential within him. That is when he has been able to become mature. Now the child does not know that I should not do such things, but the teacher knows, and he will give the rightful environment for that to happen, for him to go onto the right path, leading him onto the right path, knowing that he has the potential of doing good and bad at the same time. But that potential of doing good is even higher than the potential of doing bad, because he has seen his own maturity, so he can see it within other people.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Up next, I have Brian, followed by Joe. Oh, wait. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Okay. So I just wanted to share some of the thoughts I've had this past week and see if these what I call the unknowable, what I have in my mind called the unknowable, is also something like the unmanifest that you talked about. It just hit me when you were speaking that the unmanifest is unknowable, and I've been thinking about the unknowable this week. And when I'm looking at the horizon, sitting at the ocean here, looking at the horizon, you can never know what's beyond the horizon. And then you go there and let's say you go to what is the horizon right now, and there's still a horizon and you can't know what's beyond it. But then it struck me that it's not just what's beyond the horizon, it's everything between me and the horizon has so many, not just unknown aspects, but unknowable aspects that can never really be known. And also within me, I felt like there's so many unknowable aspects. And, the one metaphor that you gave that struck me is seeing the waves but knowing the ocean is there, but not seeing the ocean, not being able to see the ocean. That's, I don't know, I'd just like to have your thought if these these concepts or these inklings of the unknowable or anything like the unmanifest that you're talking about.
So the example that I gave there was, as you say, we talk about the ocean, we go to the ocean. However, always we only see the waves on top of the ocean. We never get to see the ocean itself. However, when we turn back and we always tell other people that I have seen the ocean, I've seen the vast ocean. Just look closely and you'll realize that, was it the ocean that I saw, or was it only the waves that I saw? When you ask that question, you realize that everything you see about the ocean was just the manifest of it on the top. When you realize that you've only seen the manifest on the top, and there's something that the wave comes from, there's somewhere the wave comes from, and it dissolves back into that. There is that place where it comes from and it dissolves back. What is that place? That place that we can't see just on top of the ocean. that place is the unmanifest ocean, which because any example that I give will become so manifest in front of us. But like, for an example, this is a case. In the same way, the whole world is manifest to us. There is something that is unmanifest behind, where everything evolves from and goes back into. It is not knowable just with our senses. That is for sure, because what our senses will see is what is the manifest. That which is the unmanifest. The first step towards that is to contemplate upon, to think about. However, that's not the last step. The last step will be realizing that sound that can be made just with one hand, by clapping one hand. That sound, the unique sound, which is anahata, it has never been made. When we realize that which has never been made, that which is never going to diminish, then you certainly realize that there is that unmanifest experience that we are missing. And it is everywhere. It is so near us that we continuously miss it. It is everywhere, even within our thoughts, even without our thoughts. It is everywhere. But because it is so near us, we always tend to miss it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I guess we're up next. I have Joe, followed by Saket and Marco.
So I'm going to ask a very kind of practical question, in the sense of, is there an example of someone, and I understand it philosophically, but is there a practical example of someone with sattvic vision?
So I get where you come from, yeah. So
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's not a fair question. I understand that to a certain
Yeah,
extent.
but so the thing is that's why the tradition of being near a guru has been within the Indian tradition, like being near a teacher. That gives you that direct experience of what a sattvic person would look like, what he is. And until I get your point, because everything can be philosophical and it can be written. And I've also read philosophical texts whereby there are those things that are the ideal, but can never be gotten to. Like that's that ideal that can never be gotten to, but it is just there because there is a push, there's a pull towards the ideal. Like we should strive to the ideal, but we'll never be able to get to it. I get your point, but then that is why the tradition of being near a teacher who has reached the sattvic level is really important. There you realize that it's not just an ideal that is written in the scriptures. However, it is a living possibility. You can see it in front of you practically. You can see how he is doing everything. He will do all your natural activities, bodily activities, even eating, even drinking, or any kind of karma action that he has to do. But certainly you'll realize as he's teaching you, as you're near him, there is that essence of him that will come to you. It's like staying, for example, let me just give an example. Like if you're brought up in an environment whereby there is a lot of killing going on, there's a lot of hatred going on, there are those thoughts that come onto us, and we feel that the whole world is filled of hatred. Yeah, and that's how we interact with people in the future. Now, there's that which comes from those people onto us, the hatred, or that bhav, or that emotion of towards other people of hatred. Now, the same thing will happen here. So the first step is that there will be that kind of sattvicness that will come onto you without you knowing it. Just by staying near that person, you may not realize it that it has come, but it comes just as automatic as any other emotion will come by you staying near such a person. It will come onto you, and it will allow you to realize that the much I have, the person next to me has even more than me of that, because he can transfer that onto me, and he is still that. So there's more onto him. When you stay near such a person, you realize a living, practical example.
Thank you for that. Yeah, because I've thought about this in terms of multiple different philosophies of life, even the idea of sagehood and how those things work. But very much appreciate your explanation, especially the example that you gave with how people in difficult environments can be near somebody with a sattvic vision. So thank you.
So up next, I have Saket, followed by Marco. And Saket, did I pronounce that right?
Yes, that's okay. It's fine. Not a problem. It's Saket, so that's okay. You pronounced it right. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So I want to say something on what Brian mentioned about unmanifest and unknowing, and uh, I'm taking from Advaita philosophy, which is closely related with Gita, Bhagavad Gita, and it's a pointer basically when it says about unknowing or unmanifest, which we can't see. It's a pointer towards everything which is knowing, which is manifesting. So whatever is manifesting is unknowing basically. Everything is unknowing. There is no way to know anything. For example, uh, this uh, this class, this is unknowing. I have given a name to it, and I have given a shape, decided, okay, this is the shape, and that's how it has come into knowing. But if you take away the definition and name and identity, it is unknowing. Just like that, it's a pointer that the entire world is unknowing if you take away the identity. And if you can see and perceive things without that knowing, then everything is unknowing. And it's right in front of us. It's not something. That's why it is unknowing. You don't have to know it. You can't know it. You can't even think about it. You don't have to think about it. So it's a pointer towards everything which is knowing. And it's a pointer that everything which is knowing is false because we have given it identity and shape. And just take away that shape and identity and look at the world, everything is unknowing. There is no way to know anything if you don't use knowledge. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. You guys for any comments or?
No comments. It's fine.
Okay. So up next, I have Marco.
Yeah, just wanted to ask, like the manifest is in every one of us, but like after a person like passes on, like is that unmanifest, like does that like just dissolve, or does it like go back to the source, or that's it?
Yes, so the fact about karma that Krishna is talking about, karma is that which makes us come into this samsara. This samsara is basically that amount of karma that we are bringing with ourselves. Only when that amount of karma which we have come with, which is the prarabdha karma, is taken away slowly by slowly, that is when that happens. That is when we're able to see it as one. However, if the right knowledge doesn't come yet, until then, if a person passes on, there will be always that coming back into the cycle of birth and death. That is according to the Indian tradition, Indian philosophy, that cycle of birth and death will always continue until the right knowledge is reached.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Ella.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I have a question about the last idea. Okay, and the last question in response to the last question, I should say. So if a person passes on, karma goes with us. And only when the karma is taken away one by one, whatever the situation is, will it be gone. Until it's gone, the cycle of birth and death continues. Now, my question is, what if a person is born into very painful and limited circumstances through no fault of their own? And even dies young. What would happen to their karma at that point? Would they still have to die and be reborn again and again? I guess that's my question.
So until the right knowledge is gotten up to, there is no living that cycle of birth and death. That is the samsara. Sansarati iti sansara, always within that loop, continuously.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? If there isn't any questions or comments, David, can you read verse 23 to 25 for us?
Yes, certainly. Chapter 18, verse 23. That action which is devoid of fruited desires, free from attraction and repulsion, without attachment, which is performed as a duty, is called the nature of goodness. Then again, that action which one with desire for fruitive results, or one egotistical performs with great endeavor, is known as in the nature of passion. And that action which is begun out of illusion without considering consequences, destruction, violence, and one's own ability to fulfill it, is called in the nature of nescience.
Niyatam sangarahitam aragadveshatah kritam Afalaprepsuna karma yattat sattvikamujyate. Yattu kamepsuna karma sahankarena va punah. Kriyate bahulayasam tadrajasamudaritam. Anubandham shayam himsam anapekshya cha paurusham. Mohadarabhyate karma yattattam samuchyate. Krishna is going on to karma, what karma means now. What is the essence of karma? And how does it divide into these three types of prakriti? Krishna has started with the sattvic type of prakriti. But for explanation, for elaboration, I'll start from tamasa. Anubandham shayam himsam. What does tamasa have within itself? The first thing is anubandham. It has that which ties you. It is when you're tied to your laziness that you feel like in tamasa. It is when you're tied to your ignorance. You'll never want to get out of it because it also has that comfort within itself. Now, ignorance has its own comfort within itself. So the first thing a tamasa karma would do is anubandha. It wants you to go in circles right where you are, and that binds you to itself. The other thing is shayam. You'll always want to deteriorate what is in front of you rather than improve it. Himsam, you'll also want not only to deteriorate in the aspect of non-living beings, non-living things, but in living beings, what you like doing is himsa. Like you'll just want to do himsa. Like for example, if you're not able to do himsa physically, what you'll do is do it using your speech, do it using your words. And you know that it will hurt somebody else, like really deeply. Yet you still can't go upon the urge of getting him into the sorrow. What happens at that time when you get angry? Because anger is also put in the perspective of tamasa. When you're angry, all your senses and all your thinking, there is a level that it deteriorates to. You do not think straight. You do not think as you're supposed to, because the anger will take you over. You will not be able to tell the difference between one person and another person. Now, not that you won't see them physically, but mentally, when you get angry upon one person, you'll thrash another person because you just can't keep it within yourself. And why do you thrash another person? It's because you see the other person within this person. You just want to thrash the anger outside here. And it may also be that you can't thrash the anger on the person who impacted sorrow onto you. For that reason, because he may be at a higher status than you, so you can't thrash it out them. What you'll do is thrash out at somebody who is at a lower status than you. What will happen then is that you are projecting somebody else onto somebody else. There is that type of ignorance that covers your intellect. You cannot tell the difference. When that happens, when you're doing himsa, even himsa, certainly within yourself. For example, it's not that there is something so bad about it But then we should also ask ourselves that if we do like some types of entertainment, for example, some types of movies or some types of series, we should ask ourselves, why do we like those types of entertainment that we are getting into our lives? Do we like the types of entertainment that contain a lot of killing each other or beating somebody up? Or do we like such types of entertainment that have love within them or family relations within them? Or do we like such types of entertainment that have nature within them or diversity of living beings within them? What do we like? That also matters a lot. That will determine our karma in consequence. Because even seeing that, perceiving that is karma. It's not that you are passive, but you are also doing karma in that perspective. You're taking in that content and you're saying that I am happy because I see that content in front of me. We should try to divide and ask ourselves, why this content rather than that content? Why do I like why do I like those types of entertainment that go to particular topics in the society? Or why do I like entertainment content that hits upon maybe himsa or that hits upon killing people in any way? We know that that doesn't really happen in that mode of entertainment. Like behind the scenes, there is no killing going on. But in our minds, the fact that we're liking that entertainment, there is a truth that our mind is picking up in there. It's like if that were true, it will be really enjoying to see. We should also introspect in our mind what that means for ourselves. It has a profound impact on us. However much we may not know it, the type of entertainment that we take in impacts us, not only mentally, but even it comes out physically as well, sometimes, because there are so many cases whereby there were kids who were in such types of entertainment, like heavily. And that's when you see it physically, like when the mental becomes so heavy that you cannot only keep it mental, but it also comes out physically. And what is mental will at one point in time come out physically. Like if you're angry at one person day in, day out, you cannot think that that anger will never come out. At one point in time, it may take long, but it will come out. That is when you realize that everything that is mental, you may be just taking it passively, but still, if it has made a mental impression onto you, there will be a point in time when it will come out physically. Anapeksha cha paurusham. So a person who is of tamasa nature, anapeksha cha paurusham, so he will not want to do some activity that takes onto energy. If an activity demands energy, he will turn back. If an activity is saying that, oh, no energy needs to be given here, but you can just have entertainment, or you can just have your happiness here without doing anything, just being passive, then a tamasa type of person would like that. Mohadarabhyate karma yattattamasamuchyate. And even any karma that he starts. Now, there are steps of tamasa, like we have said, and we all know within our environment. And as we have seen in Gita as well, there is nothing that is void of these three gunas. It's like the percentage may differ, but all the three are there in each and every one, and each and everything. that we see. So the percentage of the tamasa depends. When Krishna is saying that a person will not start anything, then we'll say that person is really a tamasic type of person, like 99% tamasa, and then 0.5 rajasa and 0.5 sattvika, somewhere there. Now, even though such a person may a bit come out of his tamasa and do something, he may do some karma now. That will also be out of ignorance. He may come onto the perspective of like 95% tamasa, but it will all be out of ignorance. It will be out of the darkness. And that karma will be like a hit and miss. It will just be karma that he's doing haphazardly. And if he gets what he's supposed to get, like if he gets what he wanted out of the karma, it will just be out of coincidence that he gets what he felt like I should get out of the karma. When that happens, such a person is called tamasic. So what is a rajasic type of person? Yattu kamepsuna karma. The first thing Krishna points out is that kama ipsu, meaning you want an achievement, you have a desire. That is when you can do karma. Now, for a tamasa type of person, when we contrast rajasa and tamasa, for a tamasa type of person, he does not have that many desires. It's like just wants to be happy passively. Like the more passive I am, the better, because I don't want to do anything. However, a person who is of rajasa would accept giving his whole life onto karma, but on one condition. That one condition is that I get my desire out of it, or at least he sees the light that I may get my desire out of this. One of the two. If a rajasic type of person has that, he can do as much karma as is needed. Sahankarena vapuna. And that karma is always going to be out of his ego. It is always going to be out of myness or out of I-ness. One of the two. And ego consists of both of them, not only one, but both. I-ness and myness. The I-ness is because of the pride of the ego. And then the myness also comes out of the ego. It may feel distinct, but then if you don't have the I-ness, you'll never have the myness. Like if there's no I, you'll never have anything that is mine. You'll have everything that is for everyone. That is the distinction. A person who is of rajasic type of nature, he will do all the karma in the world, but will keep his ego at a level. If his ego is satisfied, it is fine. If it's not, then even the karma that he did is questionable. Should I have done that karma because I've not gotten the fruit, which is my ego out of it? I've not fulfilled my ego out of it. And kriyate bahulayasa. He will put in all his efforts. Ayasa means he's doing all he can out of it to get onto his desires, to fulfill his ego. Such a person is called rajasic. Now, the contrast that we should always be able to make is there are people who are of rajasic type of nature. They will build, they will innovate, they will give us something new. They will always want to be creative. Whereas a tamasic type of person will always want to destroy what the rajasic type of person has made up. However good it may be, or however bad it may be, the tamasic type of person doesn't care. It's just about destroying. It's just about, I just want to get my satisfaction by doing nothing. And you know, the best way to get satisfaction by doing nothing is destroying things. Because when you destroy things, there is a sort of happiness, that ego fulfillment that comes. I have done something. The easiest way to do something is to destroy something. Because to create it, you need to build it brick by brick. You need to pay the utmost attention onto that particular monument that you want to make. But to destroy it, it just takes the least effort. Contrasting the Rajasa and the Tamasa, we get that distinction that those who create will go on the Rajasic and those who destroy will go on the Tamasic. Now, just caution, because not all those who create are on the Rajasic and not all those who destroy are on the Tamasic, because the Sattvic will have to do something. It's not that the Sattvic just does nothing, neither destroys nor creates. He does everything, but it is with utmost acceptance, with utmost knowing the importance of what something is, and then handling it with care. That is what a Sattvic type of person does. And he will also create, not that he won't create, but he will create out of love. He will create out of attention. He will create not for his pride. He will create because creation is beautiful. Just for the sheer beauty and for sheer love, he will create. Niyatam sangarahitam. The karma, the action that he's doing is niyata. Means that there's no way that you can go without food for so many days. You have to eat. That is why he will eat. To keep this body and to keep it going. Sangarahitam. And the other thing is that he won't be attached to anything. Neither the karma nor the fruit. He won't be attached to the fruit at all. Yet he will be able to do that type of karma. He will be able to do that action that is meant for him. Araga dveshata krita. Now, you see what Krishna, the distinction he's making here is that a person who is of Rajasic will do it out of raga. He'll do it out of the desire to get something. Whereas a person who is of Tamasic may do something, may do a karma, but it will be out of dvesha, out of anger towards another person, out of jealousy towards another person. Krishna is saying neither of these two will a Sattvic person have. Afala prepsuna karma. And not that he won't just have attachment to the fruit. He may not also need to see the fruit in front of him for him to do the karma. It is just that karma evolves out of him. So this example doesn't exactly fit onto Sattvika, but I'll still want to give it because there are so many times we think, why do we like something over the other? Yeah? Sometimes we don't even get the reason why we like something over the other. And when we like something, we strive towards it. We do karma that will allow us to get onto it. When we're doing something that allows us to get onto something that we like, that will always be Rajasa, because we are liking it. That's why we want to strive towards it. When we don't like something, that will be out of Tamasa. Maybe we are running away from that we don't like, or we are running towards it to destroy it, something that we don't like. in both ways, we are doing something that is tamasa. Now, sattvika is something beyond raga, which is desire, and dvesha, which is anger or jealousy towards somebody else, or even anything in the world. Why would a sattvic person have raga or dvesha? No reason. But still, now, what we can't conceptualize in our minds is that why would that person do anything in the world if he's not driven by desire or anger? Can it be that a person can do karma, yet he doesn't desire anything out of the karma? And can it be that he's doing karma, but it's not because he's angry about something or he's jealous about somebody? He's just doing the karma because it's meant to be done. Like, can we conceptualize it? That's the question. And like, can we really give an example towards it? Where can we get such a person? Are we striving to look for such a person who can show us what it means truly to be sattvic? And if we get to such a person, if we're even in touch or in relation with such a person, you start getting such qualities within yourself. It may be so subtle, you don't even realize that something is being changed within me, but something will definitely change when you get into contact with such a person who can do karma without being pulled by the desire or being pushed by the anger.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. So now it is time for questions and comments. If you have a question and or a comment, you can type exclamation point in chat or raise your hand in Zoom. And up first, I have Sakate.
I have a question. So at one point, Yogeshwarji talked about I and my. I want to know from him, what is this I? Like, what is it made of? And how can I get rid of this I? How can I get rid of this I? Wow, what a question.
Yeah, it is a question. Now, the thing is to see what is happening within our minds, because our minds are really complex. See where thoughts are coming from, they're evolving from. There is a place where thoughts evolve from. And then see where thoughts all dissolve back into. See that process, see the cycles, because Krishna has mentioned the cycles of Jnanam, Jnayam, Parigyan in verse 18. See those cycles happening. You'll see that because the I is there, is it that thoughts evolve from there? It is from the I that the thoughts evolve. When you realize the place where thoughts evolve from and fall back into, and the type of thoughts that go on within that, and this is not only for thoughts, but also for karma at large as well. And thoughts, when you realize where they come from and where they go back to, there is that point of the I, which is the ego, we say. In English, that's the best translation I get of I. Some say that it is the self, like what we conceive as the self. Now, there's one thing about our conception of ourselves, and there's something about the truth about ourselves. Now, if it is the truth, we can't conceptualize it. So the concept that we have made around ourselves, it may be made by ourselves and even made by the society, projecting onto ourselves. Like, for example, I is so many times put into, like, it is joined with our name, it's joined with our profession, it's joined with our society that we live in, it's joined with our race that we are in, it is joined with what we do, the type of karma we do as well, the type of action we do. Like, for example, this person is forgiving. This person is an angry type of person. Now, we perceive all that within ourselves, that I am angry. I am happy at this time. I am bored at this time. So get that conception. Where does it come from? And where does it fall back? That point where it comes from is the I. It's the concept that has been built about ourselves. And it may be built by ourselves for the society, but it is within ourselves. Now, going past the I, it needs tremendous effort of looking at these cycles, like just being the drashta, as it's said in the Sankhya Shastra. When you're the drashta of all this, you realize that the truth of I, not the concept of I, but the truth of who we really are, is way behind the concept of the I. It is way like deeper, and it is more universal than the concept that we have built, because the concept that we build can never be greater than us ourselves. And the truth of ourselves is way greater and more universal than what we think that we are.
So when I observe this space from where this cycle of thought and cycle of that ego comes, I don't find I find thoughts, only thoughts coming in the space and dissolving. I find those events coming and dissolving. I don't find any I anywhere. I just find the events arising and falling. So that's my confusion. Where is this I? I only find those coming and going cycle.
So what types of thoughts come into that space are determined by the I. It is subtle, but you see, like, for example, what are you related to very profoundly is what your thoughts will be. Like, what type of thoughts are determined by the I, and that's where they evolve from. Now, you may be having a certain type of thoughts. For example, forgiving type of thoughts, or angry type of thoughts. Now, where do those angry type of thoughts evolve from? Because they have the quality of the anger. It is because I think that I am an angry type of person that I have such type of thoughts, the angry type of thoughts that I'm always having.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yogeshwar, and thank you, Saket. Up next, I have Joe.
So I'm thinking about sattvic, rajastic, and tama. Forgive me for butchering the names. And I'm seeing them as almost three separate philosophies completely. Like, as like the reasons as to why you're doing something in the first place. And so that, but they exist, all three exist within us. And it's a matter of cultivating these, like, to become more sattvic, more than say Raja, or am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so all of them are within us in portions, in percentages.
Right.
They are all there. Now, what we focus on to, because we like it, there is a perspective of liking that we have, because there are things that we like, even in the outside world. And then there are also types of thoughts that we like within our mind. Like, if there's a type of thought in our mind, we feel pleasant. If there's another type of thought in our mind, we feel sorrowful. So there is that liking within us. Why that liking is there within us, according to the Sankhya, is because those types of gunas are prevalent within us. Like at that particular time, one type of guna is on top. For example, when you're angry, however much rajasic a person may be, there are times when he gets more tamasic than he is rajasic. Like when he becomes angry at another person. It's not that a working class person will never get angry. He will get angry. And when he gets angry, the tamasa will take over the rajasic. There will be times when there is even sattvic as well. For example, when you're happy, now not happy because somebody else is sorrowful, but then you're genuinely happy, yeah, and not because just because you've hit a goal, but let's say you're happy because, like, in a case that you feel in love with somebody, yeah, such happiness, like that is not because you've achieved a goal. It's not because somebody else is sorrowful or something. So we have cancelled out the rajasic and the tamasic. There are also times when you feel such happiness that is genuine, like genuine happiness, when you fall in love with somebody. That type of happiness also shows that even a person who is rajasic has the potential of the sattvic. It's just that he needs to manifest it more within his life.
Thank you for that. Thank you. That clears it up for me.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Up next, I have Brian.
So I was intrigued by the very last part of Yogeshwar's comments. And he asked the question, why would someone with a sattvic inclination ever do anything? And, maybe we're going to get into that yet, but it strikes me that one reason might be, I guess, well, there are two reasons that are connected to each other. One reason is just to do the thing that's appropriate in the moment, that's referenced as doing the duty. And then the other thing is to get better at doing the duty. And that those are the two things. And the only thing I would add to that is that the duty tends to be defined by roles. It could be a teacher or a carpenter or a doctor. So my sense is that a sattvic attitude is one where you've picked a role, or a role, you've fallen into a role, you have a role, and you do it as best you can, and you strive to do it better and better, to become a better teacher, doctor, engineer, whatever it might be. Would that be a sattvic? Would that be an answer to your question about why a sattvic ever does anything?
So to do his duty, niyatam karma, I do understand. There's one thing that I would like to add to it, is that sometimes when we talk about duty, like it's like as if somebody will force us to do our duty. That's when we'll do our duty. It's like there's a force that is coming on. Rather, if you could put it in the terms of doing work out of love, like you just love something, that's why you're doing it. It's not out of, like, okay, I do understand what duty means and the context that you are putting it in, but when you take it into a larger perspective, what duty means in today's world, in the modern world, it means like as if somebody will have to push you to do what you're supposed to do, or there is something like a larger, greater force that is like exerted onto you, so you have to do it. But rather, sattvic is like you do your duty and it feels like as if a feather is floating in the air. That's how your duty, like that's how your action feels. it doesn't feel heavy at all. So to explain it, it will be better to put it into terms like you do it out of love. Even you feel like as if you're lighter after doing a particular kind of action. It's like normally we feel that after I do a kind of action, I will feel heavier. But a sattvic person feels lighter than he was before after doing a particular type of action. And that lightness is more out of like that anarambha, meaning doing it out of more of love. Like it's just out of that feeling that it just happens. And the concept here is that action happens rather than the person having to do it.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Up next, I have Ella, and then I have a question, and then Joe. Ella, you're up next.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions. Upon realization that one has hurt another person, as in the example of being angry or saying something hurtful, or any example really. My question is, can karma be reduced while living? If so, how so? And are amends necessary of some type, apologies or right action, if possible, in the situation, directly to the person you have harmed? And the other question is, what is it called, sir, when you have, and this is difficult to put into words, but you feel at one with nature and you're not thinking any thoughts anymore. You're not thinking that's an oak tree, that's an elm tree, that's a flower, but you just feel, I'm using the word feel, you are at one with everything, all the trees, the river, everything. You are at one and you have no thoughts. What is that state of being?
So for the first question, that is why Krishna is pushing Arjuna towards the sattvic type of nature. Because when you do anything out of rajas or tamas, it will hold you onto your karma. That's why you'll always feel heavier after doing any type of karma, because we're doing it out of rajasa or tamasa. When you do the karma out of sattvic, you feel lighter. And when I say you feel lighter and you're not heavier, it also means in the context of karma. You do not feel like you've done anything. And it's not only about feeling as well. Even karma is not stained onto you as well. When you're in the sattvic type of nature, you are doing karma like a feather is floating in air. And a feather is actually doing nothing. It's just floating by the rules of nature. That's how everything is just going on. That is how your karma is going on. In that perspective, your karma will continuously dissolve. And then to your second question, that is what Krishna is saying, that it is the sattvic type. It is when you are in the sattvic type of nature. It is when you are sarva bhuteshu yenekam bhavam avyayamikshate. You're able to feel, you're able to know that just without any thought, without putting perspective to nouns or verbs, you're able to know that something is there. that unites everything. There is something that is indistinguishable and indiminishing. It's just there. And it doesn't need any characterization. It doesn't need any categories to be put in. It is an experience. That is when you experience what sattvic type of nature is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Now I have a question. When you were talking about a person that feels happiness when someone else is unhappy, I guess my question is like, what type of person that is, and what does it do to that person when they are feeling happiness over someone's unhappiness?
Yeah, so that type of person is a tamasic type of person because he always wants to see others in sorrow. Like he wants to see the sorrow on other people's faces. That's when he feels happy. Now, there are not so many people in the world who experience this, but there are people who experience this. That's why this category needs to be met. And this is also in a way that in our daily lives, sometimes, even though we're not such a person, sometimes this happens in our daily lives. It's like when we wish somebody's downfall, when we are wishing somebody's downfall, in essence, what it means is that we are saying that I will be happy if his downfall happens. That's why you're making the wish. When you're seeing that happening within your life, you realize that, am I at this particular point?
I think we lost Yogeshwar for a second. Just give him 1 second.
I hope he comes back for this answer.
I hope so too.
So we should know what, when we are in such type of moods, because these mood swings come, like we're in mood.
Yogeshwar, you went out for
Sure.
like 2 minutes, maybe.
2 minutes? Okay, sorry.
No worries. You were talking about I don't want to. It begins with a T, and I can't pronounce it, but
Tamasic, yes.
Tamasic, yes. And you were talking about that type of person that finds happiness in other people's unhappiness. I think you were going into the why.
Yeah, so we also realize that those types of states within ourselves in our daily life, sometimes when we wish somebody's downfall, when that happens, you have to categorize yourself that, am I at this point in time in a mood of the tamasic? And being in control of your own prakriti, whether it is tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic, you will realize that you're able to attune yourself to any kind of situation. You're able to stay there attentive with full attention and meditation in all situations that are there within your environment.
Thank you
so
again.
you should also, sorry?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and when you realize that there are certain types of moods that fall in each and every category, you can then also categorize yourself that these are the type of moods that I have more, and then how can I get onto the sattvic nature more rather than the tamasic and the rajasic, striving towards that, and in the right way, like reading the right kinds of books, getting onto the right kinds of lectures, getting the right type of entertainment. Now, it doesn't mean that the sattvic type of person never gets entertainment, but it is the right kind of entertainment that he gets. It is the sattvic type of content that he likes. So getting onto that also brings an effect onto your moods and onto your nature, which will also turn into a sattvic type of nature.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. I know you have to go pretty soon. Do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, Joe, you can go ahead.
Actually, allow Ella to go.
Okay. Ella?
Oh, I just had a follow-up question on the last question. If you have to be in a relationship with a excuse my pronunciation, a tamasic individual, and often, and are trying to see the positive in this person, and you are going toward the sattvic, how do you relate to that tamasic person in an effective way? I know you had mentioned to try to see their light. It's difficult when they want you to suffer or laugh at your suffering or manipulate your suffering. But is there a way to do that? Thank you very much.
Yes, so first, the thing will be that you get to see the light within yourself. Because when you don't see the light within yourself, it is really difficult even to put a perspective that somebody else may have a light like that. If yourself, you can't fall in love, it's really hard to anticipate that somebody else also can fall in love. That, like, the potential of them being in some kind of love, you can't even conceptualize about it. So the first thing is seeing the light within yourself. When you're constantly contemplating upon yourself, that what is going on within me in terms of thoughts, and then who I really am, apart from my ego, apart from my thoughts, what really is there beneath? When you get certainly into that, when you really get onto it, you realize that it's not only here that it exists. And it's not even about here or there. It's like everywhere it is. There's no place that it is not. And there's no distinction mark that it is here and it is there. It's just that it's everywhere. There's no place that you can say in or out. For itself, there is no in or out. It's like saying the space within your room and the space within your compound, and then the space within your neighbor's compound. Like, when the wall is destructed, there is no difference between the space. It was the same before and the same after. It is just because of the compound that you built that you can distinguish the space that is there. In the same way, certainly you realize that if you get onto that seat of being who you are, there is no in and out. There is no mine and yours. It is everywhere. And at that time, you don't even need to project onto somebody else that he may have the potential. You see it directly that he has the potential of becoming this. There is no effort that you need to put into trying to project upon somebody else.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. I know you have to. Oh, yeah, go ahead. I know you have to run soon. So I just wanted to thank you for coming. I don't know. I know Joe had a question, but I don't think there's enough time if I'm calculating that correctly.
It's fine.
I think one question would be fine. There's still 6 minutes to go, so it's fine.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, I'm trying to think of a scenario where someone with I'll get it. qualities essentially when they're doing something that they're almost doing it so that everybody knows they're doing it. So they're doing it from the perspective of being noticed, which actually would then, for all intents and purposes, kind of pervert the action in and of itself, would it not?
That is why Krishna is saying that there are three types of action, like the karma means action that we're talking about in these three verses. There's the rajasic type of action as well. And while saying that there's the rajasic type of action, Krishna relates it to a person who is doing that action, because it depends on the person doing the action, that the action is a certain type. That's why Krishna says, Yattu kamepsuna karma. Now, kamepsuna means a person who is desiring. If he does a certain type of karma, then however good the karma may be on its own, he will put his rajasic nature on the karma. He will taint the karma itself.
All right, thank you, Yogeshwar. Once again, it was a great session, and I am so appreciative of you being here and taking the time to be here. So thank you. Does anybody else want to make any comments before we end tonight?
Thank you so much, Yogeshwar ji.
Yes, thank you so much, Yogeshwar. I mean, this has been excellent.
Thank you. I really appreciate your talk this evening.
All right.
Nick did a great job too.
Yes.
Yes, and Avani did a great job. It's very worth.
I had Dave helping me. Thank you, Dave, for reading. I'm sorry that Shrikat could not come back tonight. So with that, thank you everyone for your participation. It also contributed to a great meetup, and there were some great comments, both live and in the chat. So thank you all for your participation, and have a wonderful night.
Yeah, wonderful other events this weekend for 52 Living Ideas. And
there is
one on Saturday night, and come back next week, Thursday and Friday, for the continuation of chapter 18 of the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, yes, it was Asian Philosophies is on Saturday night. That's Jason's group, correct?
Thank you both.
A shout out to all the newbies.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Especially Sakate.
Sakate.
Yeah, it was.
Sakate, thank you.
Please come back. I mean, your contributions
much.
were excellent. So it was wonderful. So.
And Myron, I've never heard, maybe I didn't do all the I missed a meetup, but I haven't heard Myron before.
Yeah, Myron was here, but we are always appreciative. Andrea is new.
And Andrea's gonna say. So thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you all.
This is a very interesting session. I'll just say that.
Yes, it was. I have to agree with you there, Joe.
Got a lot out of it.
Very
I really
intellectual.
did. I mean, it really does reveal the dynamics of a human being. And
I know, that's what amazes me. It just, to think that this was developed so long ago in such a different place.
Yeah.
It's just incredible to me.
It is incredible. I mean, it captures, all our emotions and our motivations. And yeah, imagine capturing it that long ago. That's very challenging to do.
And the other thing I'll say, because I do read the Well, let's call it modern philosophy since the late 1800s with Nietzsche,
Yeah.
Kierkegaard, also Jung and Heidegger and all the rest. They learned this Indian wisdom tradition. The translations of this were just starting to come out at that time in the European languages, and to some extent they were trying to come to terms with it, but to a great extent they simply adopted it
Right.
and put it into Western terms. It's really interesting to see that.
Especially with transcendentalism and Thoreau and that movement, they very much adopted it.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you,
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I've been reading Martin Heidegger lately, who is he's certainly he is not my favorite person, but he's a very popular existentialist philosopher. He's into ontology. He wouldn't call himself an existentialist. He was more an ontologist, the nature of being,
Yeah.
and that he studied. And I swear that his stuff came straight out of the Gita. It's really,
Really?
yeah. And he said, people say he's so original, but
No.
it is less than it could not be coincidental that his thinking tracks so closely the Gita. And I do have I found recently a book that says he became well known and then attracted some students from Asia, and he learned from them. I haven't read that book yet, but I'm going to. And that a lot of his ideas, his later ideas, came from his students. And I don't know, I can't give you the detail right now, but the similarities are more than striking.
Sakit, you wanted to say something, right?
Yeah, I wanted to say that this Indian philosophy, Advaita and Gita, there is a very thin line. It deals uh, with something which does not come under experiencing structure, or knowing structure. So it deals with something which is beyond, outside knowing or experiencing structure. Because of that, it's very difficult to explain, and it needs to be done by individual. It needs to be realized by individual. It cannot be, you can't just publish a book and make everybody aware about non-duality.
It needs to be experienced.
It's not experienced, it needs to be realized by individual, because these are pointers. Since it is beyond experiencing structure, you can't experience what they're trying to say. They're saying you can't know it. They say it's unknowing. So they're pointing towards something which is unknowing, and it's us to see. So seeing is not, when I see, I don't mean experiencing something.
Right.
It means directly seeing. So everyone needs to see direct. You can't know it from somebody second hand. It should be primary. So that's why it can't be translated or made simpler, because every individual needs to see it by himself or herself. It's individual work.
Interesting.
Now, when you say see it, do you mean like it has to come from yourself internally? Like,
It's so direct. For example, if I tell you have never tasted mango,
Mm-hmm.
and if I describe you, see, mango tastes like this, like that, and I give you a book on that, you will never know how a mango until you taste it for the first time. And this is a very lame example that I'm giving you, but it's kind of a direct perception that these scriptures tell. and it happens like in a split second. You see it and you realize, and something happens. It is even beyond practice. You don't even have to practice it. In non-duality, Advaita Vedanta, if you get to read Gaurapad commentaries on that, it's amazing how
Whose commentaries? Could you put it in the chat?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on chat. That's the like epitome of non-duality, Gaurapad commentary on non-duality. So his commentary on Mandukya Upanishad, which is the shortest Upanishad, and I think it's at the top of all Upanishads, only 18 verses, but it deals with non-duality. That's the point from where the concept of non-duality come. Okay, Mandukya.
That's interesting. I mean, I've not thought about non-dualities, to be quite honest.
So Gita and Upanishad, all these things, they deal with the nature of reality, nature of consciousness, and they say that you can't know it because in reality you don't exist. You're just a story and concept, and they'll make you see it through pointers. And the same has been taken by Buddhism and Zen and Taoism, and it is reflected in their, even in Rumi's poetry, it's reflected as it is. Rumi talks about emptiness and all, and Lao Tzu talks about not knowing. Like he says at one point, not knowing is the true knowledge.
Right.
Yeah, and knowing is the origin of all particular things.
Right.
Now, when you say pointers, do you mean like
It's like pointing. It's like I'm pointing towards moon, and you'd look at the moon for the first time, and you see, oh, that's what you mean. That's awe. That is realization, and that's what they're trying to induce. It's not a practice. People try to make it a practice. It's not a practice. Practice condition your mind. This is not conditioning.
I think he gave a good example when I asked the question about how to deal with a person who smile. Well, actually, Evanique asked the question, and I did a follow-up about how to deal with someone who may be difficult, manipulating, smiles when you're unhappy, etc. And he gave the answer that there is light and you will see it. Eliminate the space. You will see them. There's nothing that my understanding is there's nothing I'm to do. I'm not to project, oh, I'm seeing their light and now I need to reinforce that, or I need to take this action or that action. And he had also talked about it being everywhere. So can you shed more light on that, whatever that is, that's everywhere, that one can tap into and without taking action, and yet actually see?
I think that in the absence of I, identity, it's see, non-duality is like not two. There are no division.
Right.
And it tells you what divides thing, what divides the world. And the moment there is a realization, oh, this is the causing division, immediately it drops. Something drops. That divisive structure drops. And like there is a realization of non-duality, the oneness is what he talks about. And this is my own personal experience. I think that divisive structure is knowledge, naming, and Lao Tzu has also talked about naming, defining, shape. Like we have given all these things: name, shape, definitions. At one point in Gaurpad says, he gives one example. Suppose you are seeing there is a darkness and there is a rope in the darkness, and you think that it's a snake because you are not able to see it. So the rope looks like a snake in the darkness. Just like that, the world is. So you are not seeing the actuality. You are seeing the description. Actually, you're seeing the name, and that name and description has covered the layer, made a layer on it, on the entire world. And when it is realized, it's revealed that everything is one. When that experiencing structure, that knowledge structure, I call it knowing structure, drops, that is the end of conflict. That is the end of all division. That's what non-duality. You can't think about it. It happens. It happens like. Sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think all three of us were going at the same time.
I was just going to add real quickly, that was beautifully said.
Yeah.
And yeah, beautifully said. That's all I was going to say.
And it happens like, a lot of times when we are in 100% attention, like when we pay 100% attention to something so beautifully, spectacularly beautifully comes in front of us. We forget everything. Everything that we know, everything that we have experienced is dropped immediately. And we are so much into that. That's a moment of bliss, and we feel so happy, so delighted. And and then we are back. Then story is back, when the moment passes. So, like in non-duality, they talk about 3 states of human beings: sleeping, waking, 4 states basically: sleeping, waking, and dream. And there is a 4th state which is called turiya, and that state can't be experienced. That's the state of bliss. That's the state of not knowing, unknowing. So the reason it is talked about, because they want us to observe these 3 states: what happens in dream and what happens before deep sleep. In deep sleep, everything is dropped. Everything that we know is dropped. That's when we have deep sleep. That's when we don't have any dreams. Everything that we know and experience is disappeared. And in turiya, nobody can talk about turiya. There is no description about it. There is just a silence.
I just had 2, comments, one thing where you're talking about, like the world being one and experiencing everything. I was thinking of chapter 11 in the Gita, where it's either chapter 11 or chapter 12, but I think it's chapter 11, where Krishna gives, oh my gosh, why am I, Arjuna, his eyes, that way he can see all of Krishna and like everything, and he is truly everything. He is destruction, he is creation, he is fire, he is light. It's all of these things, and it's so overwhelming that Arjuna says, bring me back to, in a sense, to normal. And I just thought of that. And so when you were talking about like everything being one, and he was saying even all of the quote unquote deities or gods were a part of him. So in a sense, he is all just one. It was chapter 13. Thank you. Yeah, like I just thought about that when you said that. So thank you. It just popped into my head.
Yeah, so I don't want to give it a mystical tone, because this is purely biological.
Right.
There are 2 entities, like biological entity, which is true. We are biological organisms. But there is a parallel entity, which is psychological entity, identity. Entity, identity is the same, and which is the reason for division. And from where and how did we got to it? How did we make our psychological identity? And when it drops, the only thing is left is our biological identity, and that biological identity is not in conflict with the world. It accepts everything as it is, and that's the state of unknowing. It's not animalistic state like a lot of people say, oh, you go back to animal. No, there is an intelligence. So human beings are the highest species of the nature creation. We have been given this mind, this brain, this nervous system, which is highly sensitive, more sensitive than any species in the world. So there is an intelligence which works after this psychological entity is dropped, and only biological entity. And maybe one day science will discover this, that our identity is false, and it's the reason for all conflicts and chaos in our life, and it can be dropped.
Hey.
Oh wow, Shrikant, welcome back.
Hi. Okay.
Hi, Shrikant.
Hi. So how did it go?
It was very interesting. It was very interesting.
Very interesting.
I just got done with my call. I'm traveling out to Seattle tomorrow, so planning everything for that. I'm doing an event there. So, all right. So how was it?
It was excellent.
Okay, let's start with
Start with Evanique. She hosted.
Okay, Evanique, how was it?
It was great. I got so much from the talk. I think the biggest thing I got was and you said 18 is the recap, and it really is, because I remember talking about seeing the light in other people, and there was a lot of questions tonight geared around people who, well, I shouldn't say a lot, that's like an exaggeration.
Sorry to interrupt, Evanique. What did you guys cover?
We covered chapter 18 verses 19 to 25.
Okay, 19 to 25. Okay, wonderful. Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, but one of the interesting things I found is when your guest was talking about people who get happiness from people's unhappiness, and what goes on with them, and how we have to, well, we don't have to, but we can see the light in them, but at the same time recognizing that they're not reaching their potential. They haven't, as he said, they're the seedling, but they haven't grown into the tree yet. So kind of like having that distinction there. So I thought that was something really interesting, but I will leave it to a lot of people because there was a lot of things that I'm still processing.
Sure. So folks, this is your opportunity of achieving two things. First, I would like to know what you got from it. It's your opportunity to recap in your own words what you got from the meetup. And I would be grateful because I missed the meetup. So go ahead. Who would like to go next? Let's go with Joe. Go ahead.
So Yogeshwar said that you had sattvic vision, so that so that I should stay close to you in order to learn more. And
I know you're joshing because Yogeshwar knows that sattvic vision doesn't go by proximity.
I was about to say, I don't know where I was during that part of the meeting.
Yeah, he said
I must have left, and I swear I didn't leave the seat, but man.
So yeah, no, I mean, it was, and it's kind of the idea of the sage that I kind of take from this. And does the sage exist? But then, all right, I'm going to say it wrong again. Sattvic, tamasic, and rajasic.
Yep, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's but the different qualities that exist within all three of those. So how Rajasic is essentially works within our ego. And then how tamasic is the idea of inaction. And then sattvic is there's an element of, I want to say, I actually had something written down that it was kind of he said it was from you're acting from a place of love, and it's just, but Brian brought up a very good point. It was like, I look at it as almost duty, not in the modern sense of the word where you have to do it, but duty in the sense that like as Yogeshwar explained it, where you're doing it just because it's the right thing to do. It's like it's the idea of right action. So there's elements too of like that I have kind of notes around here that are kind of scribbled a little bit, but it's essentially also action without attachment to things. But there was a point that Sakit made that was really, when I'm still trying to process, is the idea of unknowing and non-dualities that we got into. So we're just learning about that as well. So, but the main three things that I came away with is that the sattvic, tamasic, and rajasic, and what they actually embody. And we've talked about this in the past with it within the Prakriti. So
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I mean, the thing I like about Gita is how many different ways in which Gita comes at these threefold gunas.
right.
And you can see it in various things. And he continues, he's done this in previous chapters and he's continued to do it here. So wonderful. Brian, what did you get?
Well, I just take out a lot out of what Saket has been saying, so
Yeah.
I hope this isn't the last we see of him.
Yeah, I hope we can keep this part of the recording.
Plus he's read Lao Tzu and everything that we've read, it seems, and speaks of it in terms that are very familiar to me. But I had raised the question with Yogeshwar is, can the unmanifest also be understood as the unknowable? And he talked a bit about that, but then Sakit also talked about it as the state of unknowing, not unknowable. And then it struck me that there is a reality that's really beyond and outside and quite other than and instead of our knowing. And that's a reality without divisions, like the Tao. And then the other thing with that, which that to me is already huge. The other thing is the sattvic. I think remains to be described. I mean, it's obviously we're kind of feeling our way into it, but I had, after the discussion today, I had a very good understanding of tamasic and rajasic, and but then at the very end he talked about sattvic, and or Yogeshwar did, and I asked him whether, because the sattvic is not focused on the fruit, so I asked whether but it's out of love that you do these things. What I was asking was whether if you're not really focused on the fruit, you're focused on the action, then someone who's sattvic is focusing on doing the right action better and better. So moving from apprentice to journeyman to I didn't say it like this, but apprentice, journeyman, master, and virtuoso at the end. And and that could be, if you will, why does he do it? He does it for the love of doing it. And if you love doing it, I think you want to do it better and better. That's just, and I asked that question and didn't get a real clear answer.
Wonderful. I mean, the short take is that it's equivalent of virtue ethics. This is virtue ethics.
That's what I thought. I was going to actually say that when you were talking about the three, that one is the reason why you're doing something is completely different than the other reasons you're doing something. So if you're doing something and I'm making this too simple, but if you're doing something just for your ego purposes, that's one form of an ethical behavior. But if you're doing something from a dutiful, harmonistic kind of love, that's another form of virtue ethic, another virtue ethic. Is that a right way of thinking about it? Like almost deontological?
It is
versus...
the way in which, the way I understand it is, you're focused on the truth. You're saying, what is it? What is it? What is true? What is the eternal principle behind everything that is there everywhere and in me? And then you are acting in accordance with it because that's the right thing to do. So it is very much like Wu Wei. It's saying that I am acting accordance with the Tao. So it is that kind of an action. It is not focused on the 10,000 things. It is focused on the Tao, and it is focused. So that's how I would put it. Saket, can you summarize what you said? Everything that you said. You can summarize it in. You can take 2 minutes, 4 minutes.
Not knowing.
Go ahead.
One word, not knowing. That's everything that I said was not knowing. So what I was talking about is, so at one point, Yogeshwar spoke about unmanifest, that unknowing, unknowable. And so I was pointing that, the reason it has been spoken in our scripture was not because we want to know unknowable, or it can be known. It cannot be known. That's why it's unknowable. The reason it has been mentioned to point out everything which is knowable is unknowable, basically. Point out the falseness of everything which is knowable, which is known. For example, I give this example. This is a glass. I call it a glass. I have given it a shape, whatever shape we perceive. Maybe some other animal perceives some other shape. So I have given a name, I have given a definition, and that's how it came into existence as knowable. If I'll show it to somebody who has never seen a glass, that person will never be able to recognize, let alone say anything. If I keep it here, that person will not be able to divide this thing from the rest. So the division stems from knowing. This is what that unknowable tries to point out. Everything is unknowable until you start describing, naming this. Tao Te Ching has spoken about that knowing is the origin of all particular thing. And when we leave that knowing from the world, what is left is unknowing, which is everything. Everything is unknowing. There is no way we can know anything without using knowledge. Without using knowing.
So it's okay. This is basically the Tao. Wonderful. Thank you.
I just wanted to add one point here about Tapsi, Rajsi, and Sattvic. I think it is very similar to what Patanjali has spoken about, those 8 limbs, Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayam, where a person moves from tamasic to sattvic, because it has effect on the body. The tamasic behavior and Rajasic behavior has negative effect on body, and because of that, it affects your journey towards spirituality. So those actions and those behaviors which move you towards sattvic help you to see that unknowable. So I think it's similar to that.
Thank you. You know, these terms are very difficult to do, but I think this is also a very crucial part of the Indian philosophy of kind of mapping this into the body in the chakras. So it's a very large field that hopefully at some point we'll get to that. All right. Does anybody else want to talk about what they got from it? Last chance. All right.
You're gonna map these into the chakras?
It's already been done, Joe. India has been doing this for a long time.
We're gonna do it though?
I don't know. I don't know about that. We'll have to figure out what to do next. I want to do chapter 2 if possible, and then figure out where to go from there.
Saket referenced the Upanishad that I think Yogeshwar also referenced.
Yes, that's an excellent one. It's very brief. It's only about 120 verses, I think.
Mm.
You can just go
Or
through.
which one did Saket? I thought
It's the same one.
It's
My-
18 verses. It's only 18 verses, Mandukya Upanishad.
Oh,
It's
18.
shortest one.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Just 18 verses. So it's, you know, you can go ahead and read it. So we'll at some point maybe we'll do something on that, but we'll see. All right, folks. Thank you very much, and we'll see.
Have a safe trip. When are you coming
Yeah.
back?
I'm coming back on Monday.
Oh, wow.
So I'll be back on Monday. Evanik, thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I think this is working very well, because this way I can continue kind of working and I can do as much as I possibly can. And I think, you know, we've got such a great community, so it's just wonderful. And you and David and Joe and Maritza take the lead whenever. And and you guys have become, you know, it's very natural to you guys. So I think you've gotten into the groove of it. So I think it works very well. What do you think, Evanik?
Well, I feel like I'm getting all this praise, and I'm like, I'm moderating and your guest was doing all the work. So for
Yeah,
me, it's fine because it's I
no.
don't have to really.
Yeah.
I mean, I can moderate and like take that off of your guest work, and Dave helps a lot, and Joe always is helpful. But you know, it's the participation of the participants. Like Sakate tonight was awesome, and you know, Brian's always awesome, and Penny, and you know, everybody here participates either in the chat or questions. Make my job easier. So I like doing it. Especially when I don't, you know, especially because it's just so many people contributing to it. So like even if you have like a last minute thing and I'm able to, it's easy for me because it's not like I have to be prepared for anything. I can let the guest run the show and I just execute. So
Yeah, no, I think that's the beauty of this community. And you have to realize that for somebody like Yogeshwar or some of the participants, the fact that you're doing moderating takes a lot of pressure off them, that they can just focus on saying, like, Yogeshwar can do this in his sleep. Okay. He can just talk, you know, he can just talk about these things. He knows it really well. And everybody who is participating also can speak of what they understand and what the moderator does. And moderator has a certain kind of, you know, they need certain kind of ability. It is, and some people have it. Some people are very comfortable doing it. Some people get frazzled by it. So I think it's wonderful that we have got, you know, this division of labor, because just like you say, oh, it's easy for me, it's easy for them too. So it's a mutual thing that, because somebody needs to do the moderating to make sure that everything kind of keeps moving along. So the speakers can speak, participants can participate, and I really appreciate all of you guys. All right, thank you very much, everybody.
oh wait, Joe.
No, Sakit.
Just want to say one thing, Shrikant. Joseph said about Satagun. So in Indian tradition, whenever people come together and talk about all these things, we call it Satsanga. That means Satsang. That means keeping company with Satagun. You know, people with the Satagun.
Oh.
You know.
Exactly. So what the idea of satsang? Sang means, you
Companion.
companionship.
Oh, very good.
So
Thank you.
companionship with Sattvic people.
Oh,
And so it's a group of people who are committed to being Sattvic and who are trying to study everything and who kind of go between them. And this is a very big tradition in India.
In India.
And it was very interesting. I think Rupali's mother was there, I think, at some point, and she was saying, "Oh, I really like this pravachan." Pravachan again is like presentation. And Rupali, it's delightful that you can make it from India. So I'm delighted that you've been participating.
Yeah, I have been enjoying it, and I've learned so much. So thank you for coordinating this and doing it with everybody. So thank you. And Evanik, you really do a great job moderating.
Thank
Yes,
you. That
that's
means so
true.
much coming from you. Thank
All right,
you.
folks. We'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.